channel. It's just Jame.
And tonight also Ryan. We're just gonna be spitballing all night. It'll be fun.
It's gonna be like a podcast. We're trying something new, so just bear with us. And Axel Pup, can you see? You see him in the shot? There he is. Hey, Pup.
Don't wait to sweep the pup.
Okay, so we're gonna be talking about the Kyle Rittenhouse case, which is the Kenosha, Wisconsin case where they were protesting and rioting, and because of, who was it, Jacob Blake?
Mm-hmm.
Because of Jacob Blake, who was a black man who was shot by a white police officer, so naturally they were burning down the whole city because of that. And so this kid, who was 17, his name was Kyle Rittenhouse. If you don't know who he is, you live under a rock at this point, but anyways, he was there trying to protect the property, and he had an AR-15 on him, as well as a medic bag, because he was an EMT, even though he wasn't really an EMT. He was probably certified in first aid or something like that. But either way, he was there being nice and trying to protect the good citizens of Kenosha, where he worked, and because they were trying to say it wasn't his town, right?
Yeah, he had ties to it.
His dad works there, he works there. He's there. He has a lot of people there. So, he shot 3 people. He killed 2 of them, and he injured 1. And he's on trial for murder, which is what everybody's been talking about. So the first guy he shot was Joseph Rosenbaum, he was, initially, Kyle was in like one area, right, and he was kind of just like putting out literal fires, and so there's video of him from before the shooting where 2 different reporters at least interviewed him, and he was talking about how he was helping and the different things he was doing. He'd been there, I think, several days. At one point he got pepper sprayed and didn't shoot anybody afterward, might I add. He was genuinely just trying to be a good kid. And I was thinking about this because you were talking last night about how he really shouldn't have been there. Like, when you're 17, and I don't know this because I've never been a 17-year-old boy, thank God, but y'all are like invincible. Like, you think you're invincible when you're 17.
Sure.
And I feel like that might have been playing into that a little bit. But either way, he was just trying to be good. And the whole reason he was there, or he needed to be there, was because the Kenosha Police were not doing anything at all.
They were multiple blocks back with barricades and standing behind the barricades and basically letting this little area be run amok by the protesters.
Yeah.
And they just put a perimeter basically where there was no new fires. So basically they were just attempting to set everything inside that block and perimeter on fire.
Yeah, so all the grown adults were missing from the group, basically. Because, obviously, whoever's businesses those were that he was protecting, they were not protecting their own businesses. The police were not protecting their own businesses. And so, because, there was obviously more than just him, right? Like, he was with a group.
There was a handful of
vigilantes. So, whoever they were, they felt like they needed to do something. And that's not uncommon in history for people, especially young men, to like want to help out. And naturally, this has turned into like a huge race thing. Like, I literally just saw something on the way home about Joy Reid making fun of him for crying and talking about how it's like Brett Kavanaugh crying, and like when white men cry, it's like all these things can happen just because a white man shed some tears. And like, but like, men don't cry. That's why it's different. It's not, because she equated it to like a white woman crying, like Karen. She was like, just white people tears in general or something like that. But like, y'all, I don't think I've ever seen you cry. Ever. We've been together for 8 years. So, it's a big deal when a man cries, is what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
Y'all don't just do that.
No, not a big fan.
For no reason. So, anyways, so somehow it seems a little muddy. They have video evidence of everything, but
most everything,
and it's not great video footage, but it is footage, which thank God there's footage, because if there wasn't, I mean, he'd be screwed. He'd be in big trouble.
Yeah, and apparently the prosecutor has left out part of video evidence. They only gave the defense attorneys 3.5 megabytes or some odd number out of an 11 point something megabyte video.
Really?
And they only gave them a partial
Is that
chunk
that
of that document.
infrared stuff?
I don't know. I didn't get that part of it, but I got
That's
busy and couldn't
interesting.
keep looking into it.
But I mean, if you were there, like literally the whole place was on fire, and they were talking about it's a peaceful protest.
A lot of
peaceful
buildings
protest.
on fire.
I mean,
the more video I've seen, the more fires I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, there's one of the guys that he shot was literally turning over a trailer in the road to prevent police from getting anywhere,
Blocking
the road. Yeah, and then set it on fire.
And I believe that was the child rapist that was setting the fire.
I don't remember, honestly. I thought Joseph Rosenbaum was the child rapist.
Right, I thought he was the one setting the fire.
Oh, you're right. Okay, no, you're right. I think that's right.
Because he runs towards him with the fire extinguisher.
Yeah, so Kyle's running with the fire extinguisher, and he hears a shot, and like there's people behind him, and he hears a shot, and he turns around, and he has to put down the fire extinguisher that he was going to use to put out the fire with, and he picks up his gun to protect himself, and that's when...
Because they charged him as he's going towards the fire with the fire extinguisher.
Right, and so he turned around, and Joseph Rosenbaum was literally like, had his hands out trying to grab his gun. And this is the same man who earlier in the night had said if he caught him alone, he would kill him.
Yeah. Well, he called him the N-word, and apparently Rittenhouse is supposed to be the white supremacist, though.
Right.
Even though our victim is the one using racist language.
Who supposedly, which
Towards a white man.
I only heard this from one person, but it was a credible source, that he supposedly had just been released from an insane, like a mental institution of some sort, like earlier that day, and like didn't even go home, like went straight to these riots instead. So, anyway, so he's clearly like, he's a criminal, and he's done bad things, and so anyway, so he shot and killed Joseph Rosenbaum, and then like immediately went to, I think he like was trying to check on him, and then kind of realized that like the mob was coming for him, and so then he ran towards the police. And I heard also today that as he like when he got to the police, I think they just thought that he was like an Antifa thug or something, and so they basically told him to like go away, and initially, and then he still like was adamant and like was trying to turn himself in back at the end of the night. Like, I mean, he probably could have just run away and like disappeared into the night or something, and he didn't. He turned himself in. But so on the way to the police, he gets attacked, and he gets hit in the back of the head with a skateboard twice, and he gets knocked down. And
there's a plastic bag with contents thrown at him. We don't know what.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
Canned drinks, who knows? Yeah.
So he's
kicked and punched.
Yeah, he's gotten like
by 4 to 5 grown men.
Yeah.
I believe.
And who are literally like destroying the whole town. So like, what does that say about their character? These are not like good people.
Like I say, one of them was a rapist.
Yeah. And so
9 to 11-year-old boys.
He was. So anyway, he was on the ground. He'd been hit in the head with a skateboard twice before he shot Anthony Huber, and then he gets up and Gage Grassroots, I can't ever say his name, he points a gun at him, and so he shoots him in the arm, and then he takes off running for the police. So, 100% self-defense.
Where the police, from the video I saw, it kind of looked like the police could see what was going on from where he was at. It looked like it was, if I remember right, I haven't seen it in a while, I guess, maybe, but it looked like it was straight up. If I remember correctly, it was straight down the roadway.
It did look like it was straight down the roadway.
A good bit.
I mean, I think they had their lights on, and, it's nighttime. Like, it's loud, and people are shouting, and shadows, and I don't know.
Who knows?
But probably, and that, cops, they're not really paying attention.
Yeah.
So the whole point is it's self-defense, but the prosecution is trying to say that he started it. That he had the problem, and so he
created a problem.
He created the problem, so he can't defend himself.
Can't defend himself from a problem he instigated.
Yeah.
Was their argument.
Yeah. Which is crazy because arguably the Kenosha Police started this. Whatever side you're on, they shot somebody, and that's what started this problem. Whether you agree with the guy being shot or not is not the point. Like, either way, the Kenosha Police need some help, obviously.
I think all of them do.
Well, yeah. But, so they tried to say, so he got the one charge dropped, which was a big deal, but, because he had the one gun, and they tried to say he couldn't, but he could, right?
Mm-hmm. He was able to possess that gun. The AR-15, Rittenhouse was.
Yeah. Which, like we were saying last night, I would rather have somebody have an AR-15 because I could see them using it. Versus, like, somebody like me who has a little pistol in their purse that nobody knows about. I'm just as dangerous as he is.
Well, now they do.
I'm proud of that pistol in my purse. But,
Ruin the surprise. Spoiler alert!
I'm armed.
Fucking crazy.
We talked about those cuss words.
I almost made it.
But, so, defense is arguing one thing, and is arguing self-defense, and the prosecution is arguing that he created this problem, that he was, like, some kind of a bad kid, or, like, I don't even know what their angle
They were
is.
they were trying to say that he was premeditated, is the whole thing, that he had the intent to kill somebody that night and get away with it. Be able to claim self-defense on instigating a problem, getting people to come towards him so that he could shoot them. That's kind of, because they were talking about asking him, do you play Call of Duty? Do you play, shooting games?
And he's like, yeah, it's a video game, it's not real.
Yeah. They were trying to get him to say that he intended, that so you aimed your barrel at his chest and pulled the trigger. What did you expect to happen? And basically trying to get him, I tried to kill him, is what they're trying to get him to say.
Yeah.
Which, of course, he never did, which was good, but...
Yeah. And the worst part to me was when he, broke down crying trying to talk about it. And they tried to say that that's, a sign that he's guilty. And I would disagree. I think that's, I mean, when I couldn't imagine, having to shoot somebody. And I think about that because, obviously, I carry a gun, so, I think through scenarios sometimes, especially if I'm in a sketchy place of, what I would do or how I would handle myself. And I would be a mess if I shot and killed one person, much less multiple people. And like I said, he was 17, he obviously was a little bit in over his head, and he clearly thought that he obviously handled himself better than most grown men would, protecting himself. I mean, like you said, be judged by...
12 than buried by 6.
Yeah, better to be judged by 12 than buried by 6. I'm just saying, he's got more guts than most grown men I know. And he seemed like he was, cool, calm, and collected for the most part under the circumstances. But, to say that he's cried because he cried, that's a admission of guilt.
Yeah, they're looking for everything they can grab onto.
I know. It's just sad. Because, to me, it's like they did the same thing, though, with that Covington Catholic kid. They literally drug him through the mud. And, every picture was him, smiling in his little MAGA hat. When, if you watch the whole video, because there's video footage of that whole incident with the, I think it was, at a pro-life rally or something. And it's clearly a very uncomfortable 16-year-old boy. He's very uncomfortable with the situation. And he's smiling because I did this, you just are awkward and you don't know what to do. So you just are okay, this is going to go away. And next thing you know, he's on the front page of every news website saying that he's some kind of white supremacist. And now that kid's a bajillionaire because he sued CNN for defamation. But not until after they doxed him And they, like, gave away all his personal information and, like, totally drug his name through the mud. And they basically done, I mean, like, Joe Biden.
It's all propaganda.
Yeah, Joe Biden literally used a picture of Kyle Rittenhouse in his ad talking about white supremacy.
Mm-hmm.
When he shot all white people, so he's not even, he's not even a good white supremacist.
And the racist person with the racist language is the one that got shot.
Yeah.
So really,
and in any other reality in America, if you say the N-word, it's like the ultimate crime against humanity. Like, that's proof you're a racist. And
but Joe Biden said in the speech not long ago.
Yeah.
But we all know Joe Biden's racist.
Yeah, he literally said the Negro League like 3 times.
Yeah, twice. And then, he's got other things recently that is like, well,
yeah. You ain't black if you don't vote for me.
Yeah.
What?
That was a little bit of pandering there.
Yeah.
Just
same thing, they called Larry Elder the black face of white supremacy. I mean, for goodness sake, he grew up in, like, Compton, I think. Like, he's not, I don't know.
Uncle Tom.
And they literally, like, somebody dressed up in a gorilla mask threw eggs at him. Like, how much more racist do you have to get? And nobody talked about that. Like, no coverage whatsoever. That's ridiculous. So, anyway, and then, that's a whole different subject, but
plus the prosecutor being able to wield the AR-15 through the courthouse.
Yeah. The whole, like, that's absurd to me. Like, you are on gun charges, and we're like 2 weeks post Alex Baldwin's incident where he shot somebody, technically 2 people, because the bullet went through and through, and for the exact same thing, like, he had an AR-15 pointed with his hand in the little trigger guard, no questions asked, and supposedly it was checked, like, you could still have one in the chamber. They said that it didn't have a magazine on it, but
and I'm sure they racked it and made sure there was nothing inside, but still.
That's not the point. That's
not
not good gun.
You got that right. Why
manners.
does he get to bring a gun in the courtroom for a prop?
Right.
It's not evidence.
It was
other than,
it was literally just to scare the jury.
It was just to scare the jury. What if somebody pointed at you? You would grab it. You would have done the same thing these heroes have done.
Yeah, he kept calling all the riders heroes.
Yeah.
And literally was like, well, they have a right to protect themselves against an active shooter. Just when the whole reason he was shooting was because those heroes were attacking him.
Swarming him.
Yeah.
Outnumbering him.
And one of those heroes literally admitted to pointing the gun at him before he was to get him shot, the one guy that lived, but then went on CNN and, like, talked to Anderson Cooper and all these different people and blatantly lied and went against his sworn testimony.
Yeah, well, it's perfectly legal to lie to CNN.
That's what they're known for.
That's what they're known for, and that's what they do. I mean, that's why they make money. But it's not legal to go for perjury if you do it in the courtroom. So you have to be a good boy in the courtroom. But technically in CNN, he could tell them the complete polar opposite.
He basically
did. But yeah, he could tell them the sky's green, his name isn't that. He can say whatever he wants on TV. That's freedom of speech in there. Or out in the real world, but in the courtroom, you gotta be careful what you lie about.
That's wild.
And just basically don't lie about anything. Essentially.
And then, like, the prosecution also said something about him having his Fifth Amendment right.
Yeah.
Claiming, like, said it in front of the jury when that's, like, basic law.
Well, you have got the right to remain silent if you get arrested. You don't have to say, or you don't have to answer the cops' questions at all. You're never obligated to speak to the police.
And either way, he turned himself in. Like,
right, which he's not obligated to do necessarily without a warrant or anything.
And
he's allowed to get to a free, safe space.
Yeah.
Where he feels comfortable.
Yeah. And they made his warrant like $2 million, and his bail, yeah. And they made that white kid who shot up a school, like the last school shooting, his bail was like $2,000. So I don't see who's really racist here. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't make any sense. He turned himself in, and it was a very obvious self-defense. Like, this should have never gone as far. And for people like me who maybe don't understand the fact that the prosecution is the United States government, like, they're acting on behalf of me and you and our tax-paying money to convict this man
Mm-hmm.
or not, when he was upholding one of the biggest amendments that we have, which is the right to keep and bear arms, to protect ourselves from the to form a militia against the government who is literally prosecuting him right now.
Yep. For sure.
It's just wild. Like, I don't know. It's hard to think about it. You know, like.
And it's weird how it just seems to be so many problems around this government, right? You've got the Kenosha Police that probably overreacted shooting Jacob Blake.
Yeah, they were. I mean, in their
In a
defense,
lot of people's opinion.
there's a lot of poor training that goes, I feel like, into the
Absolutely.
police. And they are so short-staffed because nobody wants to be a police officer anymore because of all of this stuff.
And short-tempered.
And yeah, and they're like used and abused. They get. I mean, you know, they have their own set of issues.
Sure.
And then you add in poor training, and then the media makes them out to be these horrible people on top of that, and it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, tell me.
So.
Well, so they caused the Jacob Blake thing, so then the Kenosha riots, they don't send the National Guard in there or do anything with the local police
Yeah,
to
that's
control
true.
anything.
They overreacted with Jacob Blake and then underreacted with these riots.
Yeah.
And now they have 500 National Guards waiting for the verdict because of they're afraid of the reaction. And if they had just done that to begin with, the riots, like there would have been no need for Kyle Rittenhouse to do any of that. Like somebody else, a grown adult,
for it.
yes, an adult man or woman, whatever, who's trained properly in how to handle this situation would have just been there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it was Kenosha, but I know that there were other cities like Kenosha that the same stuff was happening, where the governors and the state government refused the National Guard when Trump tried to send them in to help.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, and like I said, I don't know if it was Kenosha, but it was the same type of situation.
Yeah.
So.
That happened to multiple ones.
So anyway, it's just a rough go of it for poor Kyle.
Yeah.
And like we talked about, our good friend Jordan Peterson, he doesn't know that we're friends, but we are. He said in that video I sent you that good men have to be dangerous, and that's a perfect example of Kyle Rittenhouse. Like, he was trying to do his job, but he also knew that he had to protect himself, or else there would be no, like, what's the point of going if you can't protect yourself?
Sure.
I mean, so, which brings me to the whole reason I even wanted to talk about this, which is because everybody should have to be able to protect themselves. For one, you should, with your health, like, you should be able to protect your body and be able to take care of yourself, but, like, you should be able to protect your family and your livelihood and your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Stuff that you worked hard for.
I mean, like, beetles can protect themselves. Like, every animal has some sort of form of protection.
Some sort of defense or offense.
Yeah. Whether it's, like, changing colors or whatever the case may be, but, like, you have to be able to protect yourself. Otherwise, how do you survive in this world? Like, I don't know. I just know that I feel like a new woman ever since. I've had my gun now, 7 or 8 years? And I take it everywhere I go. Like, I'm never without it, because I just want to be able to protect myself. Like, I think literally, like, I've almost gone in gas stations before and thought to myself, like, no, that's going to be the one time something crazy is going to happen, and I'm going to end up on the news like an idiot with my gun in my car and dead on the ground or something crazy like that. Like, I carry my gun just as much for everybody else as I do for me. Like, if I'm ever in a situation, like, I feel like mentally I'm prepared to, God forbid I would ever have to, but, like, mentally I feel like I'm prepared to handle myself if I had to. And I don't think other people can necessarily say that. Probably just because they've never thought about it, but, like, when you own a gun, that just, those thoughts just sort of, like, they should anyway, if you learn how to take care of it correctly and, you know, have respect for it, they should naturally follow, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I just think everybody needs to be able to protect themselves, especially women. And, like, there was that video or that clip from The View where I forget her name, the black lady on The View, where she said she bought a gun last summer, because of all these riots, to protect her son because she was an only mom or a single mom, and the like snooty little white ladies on The View were like giving her a hard time, like you don't need a gun, you shouldn't have bought a gun, you shouldn't have to buy a gun, and she's like, well, I just know that I need to protect myself, and like she literally looked so helpless, like how is that not racist either? Like black women need. She's a single black mom, like. I don't know. It doesn't even matter that she's black. Just the fact that she's single and she has to take care of her child by herself. She deserves to be able to sleep well at night. I mean, that's... I don't know. Like, why do people try to take that from you? And even if you did, like, you could just get hit over the head with a skateboard. Like, there's always going to be a weapon out there, even if it's not a gun.
Yep.
So, anyways. I heard you were giving away free classes.
Free? Who said free? For a great discount, I'll give you a great rate.
When you taught me how to shoot, do you remember what you did?
No.
You took my gun away from me and like yelled at me. I think you like took it apart. You didn't take it apart, but I think you like took
Unloaded it?
Unloaded it, yeah. And then you like gave it back to me and yelled at me the whole time while I put it back together, and then I had to shoot it at the target.
Yeah, I do remember that now.
I don't like to be yelled at. So.
Well, it worked.
Well, I mean, it's a good like exercise.
It's never going to be a calm situation you're in.
Yeah.
When you're fighting for your life.
Yeah.
It's never going to be unstressful.
Yeah.
It's going to be the most stressful, I would dare to say.
Yeah.
Time of your life.
For sure. Here's a fun story. Whenever we almost had a tornado hit our house, the very first thing Ryan took to the basement was not me or the dog. It was...
They ain't going to be no help to me in the case of a tornado. They ain't going to do nothing but dead weight.
A pile of guns that we have.
It was 2 or 3. Fully loaded. Of different types. And then one for everybody. Everybody gets a gun here. Shit hits the fan, grab one. Stick one in your pocket and run.
Not food or water.
You got a gun, you got all the food and water you need.
Yeah, fair enough.
And what little you got remains yours.
Yeah, fair enough. Gotta be able to protect yourself, for sure. I mean, I stay here plenty of times by myself for like a week at a time, and it never bothers me.
Shouldn't.
Now, it doesn't. I mean, when we first moved in, it did that one time the power went out, and I didn't have my gun. It was like in my car or something. Remember the power went out, and you were like not coming home, and it went out, and I was in the bedroom, and I texted you and like begged you to come home, and you're like, I've been drinking, I'm not coming home. Come to me, and I was like, I can't leave the bedroom. And so I just stayed in there all night, and I fell asleep in there, and I had like water from I think I had like a glass of water or something, and I literally just like locked the door and went to sleep, and just prayed to God it'd be over. But it was like super sketchy because like the power went out and it wasn't storming. Like there was no reason that the power should have been out.
I've been windy and
I don't know, but no, I don't think so. And you're like, just run to your car, and like the outside light was not on, and no.
Dang.
So, anyways.
Hate to hear that.
Yeah. That was, like I said, that was like, we didn't even have furniture yet, so like, you know, if I'd have come out, like, they'd have got me.
Dang. The furniture would have slowed them down well.
No, but like,
They even brought them to a halt?
you can like hide behind furniture.
Ah, you're gonna dip, duck, and dive? Dodging bullets over here? Like a John Wick? Yeah. Hell yeah. Rambo barrel roll and over the kitchen table and...
If I needed to.
Then what? Throw a plate at them?
Like I said, I just stayed in the bedroom.
Yeah.
Where
Didn't
I
have
was
furniture.
sick.
Hey, I hear you. I hear you.
Oh, shoot. It sounds silly in hindsight.
Yeah. Sure does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh well.
Oh, Lord. Well, Friends, rootin', tootin', good time.
Yeehaw! Pew, 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 pew!
Well, we were going to do this. We had hoped the verdict would be out by now, but it's not.
Sure not, is it?
If he's...
Still deliberating.
I don't know what there is to deliberate on. If they...
Well, there's a shadow of a doubt, so seems case closed to me, but of course I wasn't there, didn't see all the evidence, but...
I mean, the whole thing was done live, though.
Well, I didn't watch it.
Well, but, I mean, I'm just saying. I thought we watched enough of it. I know I did.
Jame.
It all
That's
kind
ignorant, Jame.
of, right, yeah, sure. I'm just saying,
We caught the highlights.
yeah. It's going to break my heart, though, if they find him guilty.
Well, that's what the Second Amendment was for.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like,
I mean, to do something about it if he is guilty.
oh. Yeah.
It's happened before.
Yeah. I mean, I think if he is guilty, they'll just appeal it. And, I mean, can't the judge, like, even if they find him guilty, can't the judge, like, if the judge disagrees, can't he do something about that?
I don't believe so. He's not there in this
He just
type
does
of
the
trial.
sentencing.
Yeah, he does. He does the sentencing to see fit, but it'll be a minimum life sentence if they get him on murder. So,
Well,
they can appeal it, which I think they already filed for something because of the video footage that didn't get given to them all the way. They didn't see the whole video that the prosecution showed until the middle of the trial.
oh.
Yeah.
That infrared footage was pretty creepy to me. I don't know where that came from or how
Apparently
they...
a drone, what I heard.
That makes sense. That's weird, though. I mean, that's crazy.
What the fuck? Yeah, police are just flying the drone over all these
That's
burning
probably
buildings
how they
and-
missed all the other stuff. Or she was video gaming. Their little AR. Oh, I can see him. What's going on?
Joke.
Yeah. That probably costs a lot of money for a nice drone. I mean, I don't know. But
Sure did. I'm sure they overpaid for it.
they probably had to take classes to learn how to use
Oh
it.
yeah, definitely. Classes.
Good gracious.
They probably got a contract with the drone company too. You can't just buy one and have it.
That's probably why that,
You gotta sign up for something.
that's probably why that cargo plane, what'd you call it?
Aircraft carrier.
Aircraft carrier. Probably why that was so expensive is because they got a contract, and if you get a contract with the government, everybody knows you just say a number,
Change order,
and they
yeah.
don't.
They just do it.
They just pay for it. They don't haggle with you or anything. I mean, they don't.
Well, it ended up being $13.3 billion to build this newest aircraft carrier, which was 30% over their initial estimates.
For one aircraft.
For one aircraft carrier. Supposed to be the biggest and baddest, which is great.
13 billion.
13.3 billion.
With a B.
With a B. It's a lot of dough.
Which is 1,000 million. Yeah.
I think that would be what? 900,000 million?
999,000.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know either. It's more than we'll ever see.
Yeah. Fairy tale numbers.
Yeah. Wow, that's wild. Well, anyway, I've been praying for poor Kyle. Hopefully he'll get out of this little pickle. Because if not, we're all screwed. I mean, this is a big case for that reason. Because if they can get him or something like that, when the government so clearly dropped the ball on like multiple occasions, from the Jacob Blake thing all the way to like whipping a pistol or a AR-15 around the courtroom,
Yeah.
and everything in between, like this was the government dropping the ball here, and if they're gonna lay that on Kyle Rittenhouse's shoulders, then
And then coming from the same people that want you to not act in self-defense on your own,
Right.
but to call them.
Yeah.
Just call the police, and then when the police get there, just comply.
Yeah.
It's like a little totalitarian, don't you think?
Yeah.
And everybody's supposed to just, when the police show up, just drop what you're doing and fall down to your knees and bow to them, whatever they say. They're not always right.
Yeah.
They push the limit plenty of times.
I definitely, which I was always a good kid, so I never had any issues with the police not until we started dating. I've still never had any issues with the police, but I've just learned a lot hearing you talk about it, and that's all you do is watch those police videos of like people giving the police a hard time and like not letting them.
First Amendment auditors and some dash cam footage of people getting pulled over where the cops are breaking the rules and
they'll try to like
lying.
Get them to
They're allowed to lie to you. They're allowed to
They are.
promise to make deals with you that they have no intention of upkeeping.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the best thing to do when you get pulled over is shut the fuck up. Everybody knows that. And if they don't, they should. There's lawyers that's what they say. That's their logo. What do you do? Shut the fuck up. When they ask you a question, what do you do? Shut the fuck up. When they ask you where you've been, shut the fuck up.
Ryan, this.
When they say it once, what's the point?
Because I gotta edit it.
I'm mumbling it. Just beep it.
But
so the best, if you do get pulled over, if it's a traffic infraction, they have to articulate who they are and what their suspicion is. That's more for if you get pulled out of the car or get arrested. But if you get pulled over, they do have to tell you what they're pulling you over for before you hand them any information. They have to articulate what you're being accused of. They don't like to because they like to hold the power, obviously.
Yeah.
And make you hand in your license first, and cop-splain you and all this stuff. Here's the deal, bud. Here's how it's going to happen, man. You've got two options.
Yeah.
You can either comply or go to jail. They love the good cop, bad cop kind of deal, too, if they have a partner show up. One guy's, here, look, man, you're making this a bigger deal than it needs to be. Let's just give us your name, bud. What's your first name? Let's start with that. And they get you talking. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to tell them where you've been. You don't have to tell them what you've been doing. You don't have to tell them where you're headed. You don't have to tell them anything. If they say, caught you going a little fast, were you speeding back there? Plead the fifth. You don't have to say a word. The whole interaction, you don't have to say anything. Same with a DUI checkpoint. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to say a word. You don't have to answer any questions. They'll pull you over, get the supervisor to come over here, give you a good wrestling, rough talk you a little bit. Say you have to, you don't. If you don't, they'll eventually say, am I being detained or am I free to go? They can hold you for a reasonable amount of time, 15, 20, 30 minutes. But after that, they have to let you go. You do not have to talk to the cops. You don't have to answer any questions, folks. Do not do it. It will not help you. Ask any lawyer. Ask any defense lawyer. He will tell you. I've watched plenty of those videos too.
They really do get themselves in a lot. And people think that
do not answer questions without a lawyer present. Contact your lawyer first. It's a Miranda right. It's a Miranda right. You don't have to say anything before or after arrest. Either one. Cop walks up to you, give me your ID. Nah, dude.
Because people think that cops are like good guys, but it's weird because you have these certain people who think that they only go around shooting black people, which is not true. I'm pretty sure I saw a statistic where they have actually shot more white people than black people.
They're non-discriminate. They'll mess with anybody.
Yeah,
equally.
But proportionally, there's more white people in the world. So I think it proportionally is.
I'm sure they are a little bit more prejudiced and standoffish when they interact with a black person, especially if thug dressed.
Yeah.
We know the type.
And statistically speaking, it's like the majority of crimes are committed by, not the majority, but I forget the statistics now. I'm not going to get myself thrown under the bus here, but Larry Elder talks about the statistics for the black community and why that could be more of an issue. But anyways, the point is they'll mess you up. They'll shoot your dog. They'll do all kind of stuff. I mean, like that one girl that got shot.
Knock your door down at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Not check the address first.
Yep.
That happened, Breonna Taylor?
Yeah, and that's who I was thinking of.
That's happened multiple times.
Yeah.
That's happened a lot.
Yeah. I mean, you've shown me a lot of videos where they've come in and, like, shot somebody's dog over, like, a marijuana charge or something like that.
I've seen one where there was a burglar alarm that went off accidentally or whatever in the middle of the day, mind you, while people are at work. It's just going off, whatever. So the cops show up, look over this 6-foot privacy fence. Looks fairly new. It's in good shape. 6-foot privacy fence. Little man has to hop up on top of it, look over, sees a dog. It's coming towards him, through the fence. And so he reaches over the fence and shoots the dog, and then lets it die in the street, and then walks in and clears the house.
Oh my gosh, I wish somebody would try to shoot my dog. Oh my gosh, I would be setting the police precinct on fire myself.
Yep, over something like that.
That's unbelievable.
And it's fairly bigger dog, but wagging its tail, not running towards it, but kind of like, it's probably weirded out because this alarm's going off for God knows how long. Because, the police don't just come in the next 30 seconds you call them. That's why you need a gun, because they're not going to get there quicker.
Right.
So.
Especially now that they're being defunded and short-staffed and.
Yep. Best offense is good defense.
Yeah.
So. Yep. Dog's wagging his tail, and he reaches over the fence, shoots it. Once it's dead, he walks in and clears the house. Make sure it's good. And then the homeowners come home, see the dog laying in the yard bleeding, or bled out, and go hysterical, and they're like, and so the cop explains, man, blah, 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 open the gate, he charged right at me, and it's body cam shows completely different.
Wow.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. So, moral of this whole thing is that cops are not
Perfect.
perfect.
We can leave it at that.
Yeah. I mean, they certainly have their place, but this whole Kyle Rittenhouse thing could have been avoided if the cops had just stepped up and not
done what they're supposed to do.
And protected the city like they took an oath to do.
So maybe they're out, and see, surely they're not outnumbered, right? But they didn't do anything, right? They could have at least stopped the people running around the street breaking shit, right?
Right.
But they didn't do that. But
they could have just at least been a police presence, like
something more than just set up a stand and like set up a perimeter or whatever, and just sit back and watch it happen in their cars. But let them get one person surrounded, and they'll bring 4 or 5 different cars and gang up on them just fine. But then when everybody else gangs up on them, then it's not fun anymore.
Yeah, that's a good point, because that happens a lot. Like, I can't stand, like, somebody will get pulled over and, I've been pulled over and had a second cop car pull up, and I'm like, are you kidding me? I wasn't even going that fast. Like, there's nothing going on here. I mean, this was when I was in high school, when I drove that little Nissan Stanza with all the Jesus bumper stickers on the back. Why do you need a second police officer for me?
They like to be prepared for it in case they need to get rowdy. They love doing that. They might want to yank you out of the car before they bust the windshield open and reach in, unlock your car, and yank it open, yank you out of the driver's seat, throw you on the ground, and rough you up real good.
That's wild.
Yep, they love doing that.
Man. So, that's the Kyle Rittenhouse case.
There you go. In a nutshell. Through our eyes.
Through our eyes. This is our first, we're calling it a podcast. We're working on better podcasting, a better podcasting set.
Yeah, set and etiquette.
And etiquette. And equipment. Turns out we don't have the best podcasting equipment. It's a lot harder to get 2 people than just the one. And the audio and the things. Just all the stuff.
It's so many things.
It's hard. And also trying to find time for 2 people to record instead of 1 person, which is why this video is late this week.
Better late than never, Jame.
That's right.
Let's wrap this thing up.
Yeah, I'm
Get
hungry.
to eating.
All right. See y'all next time. so corny.
I saw you going for the sling it out.